Hello BC, welcome back to my channel. Today we go for the second part of the Classic Records Editions series, and I think I've put out quite some interesting records, very classical ones, Led Zeppelin, Zappa, also classical music, Neil Young, Crosby, Stills, Nash, really some highlights in my opinion. And that's quite the interesting part of the Classic Records editions, that they have done a lot of editions which aren't put out by the other audiophile labels. And you know what, let's start with the first edition, and let's go for this beauty, Frank Zappa, Hot Rats. It's a 33 round edition with 200 gram Quiet X vinyl, and I compared it to an anniversary edition I bought over here in Germany, and it comes in this beautiful pink vinyl and was remastered. And it's also not bad, it's good. And if you ask me which editions you should go for, or which edition, I recommend the new one. The new one is, for all who are into pink vinyl, the one to get. If it comes to the sound and overall quality of the pressing, I highly recommend Hot Rats from Classic Records. It has punch, it has a space between the instruments. You know, this gorgeous song where he plays together, or where Captain Beefheart sings, it's Willie the Pimp, over 9 minute long song. It's outstanding, it's beautiful, really beautiful. And the Classic Records comes with a very interesting inner sleeve, because there is some text, and Bernie Grundman wrote about how excited he was to master a Frank Zappa recording, because Frank Zappa was one of the most distinctive figures in the history of pop music. I remember Frank was also meticulous about sound as he was about his music. And I have some remasters from the Zappa label, and this must be true. The sound of those Zappa albums, editions, are outstanding. Really good. And Bernie Grundman, who did the mastering for this Hot Rats, says the same. Maybe it's interesting, he also talks about the mastering process. And I just read it. Since mastering is somewhat behind the scenes in the process of making a finished recording, many people view it as a mystery. Basically, after the mixer has finished, mastering is the last creative stage and the first step in manufacturing. This then is the last chance to make modifications, and is what I call the sobering part of the business. Okay? Don't be too creative with original masters, I might add. And there is a very nice statement at the end of the text, and this comes from Gail Zappa, probably Zappa's wife, and she said, a word about Bernie Grundman by Gail Zappa. Ears. I really like that. So this is a highly recommended edition, beautiful one, and it's quite reasonable priced over at Discogs. So if you want to get into this classic recording with an audiophile record, the Classics is highly recommended. So the next two titles are classical editions from Classic Records. First, Everest Villa-Lobos, and this was a disappointment. I have to say it quite frankly, doesn't sound good at all. Don't go into this edition. I compared it to the 45 Everest edition from Analog Productions, and it's much better. It's much better. It's a huge difference, and if you want to go into this beautiful recording, go for the analog and not the classic record, the classics record. A little disappointment. Sorry to say that, but what can I do? On the other hand, another Everest stereo by Classics. It's called Korobori. It has a lot to do with the Australian Aborigines, and this is an outstanding pressing. Outstanding. The main aspect is the dynamic. This has such huge dynamics, very good, very clear, very spacious. The sound stage is beautiful. The instruments are beautiful, separated. Highly recommended. Almost in demo quality when it comes to the dynamic range of your hi-fi equipment. Highly recommended. Beautiful. So that's it for the classical records for today. Next one. Neil Young and Crazy Horse, live at Fillmore East. We've talked quite something about Massey Hall from Neil Young, which is an outstanding live recording, and this doesn't come short. Highly recommended live recording. If you're into live recordings, if you're into Neil Young or with a Crazy Horse, gorgeous live recording. Beautiful. It's not that cheap. I think it's around 100 of your US dollars, but still highly recommended. Gorgeous recording, gorgeous pressing. Beautiful. Next one, also a classic record and a classic by itself. Crosby, Stills and Nash. Beautiful album, beautiful recording. It's outstanding. To have this album in such a quality is pure luck. I'm so happy that these old classic records, I've talked about the situation with classic records and a little bit about their history in the first part. So if you're not so familiar with them, maybe go there and look up the first part of this series. Gorgeous label, and Bernie Grantman did marvelous jobs with these recordings. This is also beautiful edition, highly recommended, although they are sometimes quite pricey because they are long gone, and maybe even most of these editions hasn't been released as audiophile versions since. So hard to get sometimes, but if you don't have the originals or 5 or 6 other versions and want this records, you may consider going into them. Next one is a Blue Note. Horace Silver Quintet, Horoscope. He plays with Blue Mitchell on the trumpet, Junior Cook on tenor sax, Horace Silver on piano, Gene Taylor on bass, Roy Brooks on drums. Beautiful jazz album, beautiful edition. I don't know if there has been any other audiophile releases from this album. I got this one for around 40 euros, which is very reasonable. And I have kept the original inner sleeve so that I can show you the original inner sleeves. Again, this Quaix SVP super vinyl profile, and it's a super vinyl. It's very quiet, very good. It's really very good vinyl. They are all dead flat pressings, quiet pressings. although I've read that some people had some problems with noise floor, up to now I was very lucky with these classic editions. Although, and I said that I think in the first part also, but I say it again, usually I don't go for mint, also mint cover and mint records, which means it's sealed. I always try to get a near mint, then it has been opened, and if there is too much noise floor, the seller will tell you and say it's noise floor. So that may be a tip if you want to get into the classic records. And the next two are, you probably know them, Led Zeppelin. These Led Zeppelin editions from classic records are absolute highlights. They released them in several different editions on as four disc, only one sided and one side edge in a box. And I went for the Quaix X SVP 200 gram editions because they are not so unbelievable high priced. For this edition you have to go around 280 to 320 euros, which is around $350. Of course, it's a lot of money, but overall, if you see what you have to pay for these notorious Bob Ludwig pressings, it's not much. So, and they make me happy. They have great dynamics, great bass. They sound very natural. They are very coherent. So if you want to go for a very good Led Zeppelin pressing and feel like me that those digital remasters are not your cup of tea, try them out. They are still there sometimes, and those are absolute classics. So highly recommended. The Led Zeppelin editions of classic records are my recommendations if you don't have an unlimited budget. Same goes for this album, Led Zeppelin 2. Sturdy cover, brilliant pressing, outstanding. I'm so happy that I have these editions, and I never regret, although I have to pay the price. They are not cheap. They aren't cheap, but still, those are so important recordings. Highly recommended. Okay, now for a band which has gotten a little out of focus, I think. Genesis. Nursery Crime. Again, Classic Records did a beautiful, sturdy cover recreation. Nice recreation of the original label. And how does this one sound? I think that Genesis is not a very audiophile band. And if you judge about this pressing, you have to put these parts into consideration. And if I compare it to I have an original pressing, German original pressing, and this is much better, much more dynamic, much more on the natural side. So I never regret that I paid this 90 euros, I think, and but it's not an audiophile edition per se. You have to put your expectations a little lower, but still, I think it's the best remaster which is out there, and somehow I like the old Genesis records with Peter Gabriel. The later ones I don't like, but I think I'm not alone with that. So now, two of my favorites. The Who Sell Out. Of course, an iconic cover. In my opinion, one of the best covers of all time. The record itself, of course, is outstanding. It's a little bit like you listen to the BBC with commercials, and outstanding record. The cover itself, oh my God, is that great. And the job, again, the job that Classic Records did on those Who editions is gorgeous. Is I can't compare them to the original pressings that maybe some other member of the VC can talk about original pressings from the Who, but what I've heard so far on remasters of the Who, and I've heard quite some, those are by far the best, by far the best version I have heard. Again, on this 200 gram Quiet X SVP vinyl, beautiful, great dynamic soundstage, everything is where it belongs. Love those editions. Okay, let me just put that up. Come, we look at the poster. Sorry, here's a poster that comes with this edition. Why shall we skip it? This comes with this edition. Let me wrap that up. Give me a second. So, and the last one for today is an absolute highlight in my opinion. Tommy the Who. Again, Classic Records, double album. Outstanding. Outstanding in every way. Outstanding as a record, outstanding as an pressing, and outstanding as an audiophile release. Again, Classic Records did such a beautiful job with this edition. Although I have to warn you, this doesn't come cheap. I think it's around $350 again. Very pricey, but this, in my opinion, you might disagree, but this is the Who album. Some may say it's Who Sells Out or Quadrophenia. For me, it's Tommy. And it was so popular. I remember that time when as a little child we heard it everywhere. It was quite an outstanding release and a very, very important and beautiful record. So this is my highlight for today, The Who, Tommy. Hope you enjoyed this video, and like always, I would love to discuss with you about the Classic Records. Hope you liked the second part of this series, and we see us soon. Thank you for your time. Bye.